I suppose the next thing, from my perspective, I was sent up to the DAT as a prefect, so there were 2 prefects up there. I started with a chap called Evans in Shallow, who sadly was killed in a road accident not long after he left school. And the pair of us had a room half this size, maybe less than that, and we had our beds in there, etc. And I think there were 20 plus, 24, something like that. Anyway, the next guy come up was Mike Hawkins, so we had a very good summer term together, and then I went back down to the main school. I mentioned the headmaster. He, when he arrived in 1948, I think I'm right in saying there were 2 forms, Shell, 4A, B and C. By the time I got there, Shell was finished, and I mean, if somebody went off to university, that was very unusual. By the time I left, there were about 8 or 10 of us. And I remember there was a very nice chap called Russell in Shallow who got a state scholarship. We were given a half holiday. Right. Never happened before.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I remain convinced that Val Hill was responsible for all of that. Anyway, when it came to what I did, my A-level choice was English, history and geography. Wheeler, you have a woolly brain, he said. So I said, well, if I went to university, I would want to read history. Well, you've got to do A-level Latin. I said, no, given what a struggle it was to get to O-level Latin. So anyway, I ended up doing those 3. And to my astonishment, he apparently suggested my father that I should try to go to Oxford. And in those days, I think 2% of the country went to university. And so Bruce Corrie and I, and a number of others, about a dozen altogether, went to Oxford or Cambridge in December to sit the entrance or scholarship exams. I was the first one to get the results, and everybody else said, whoopee, we're all in. Well, it didn't quite work out like that, and I remain convinced that Harvard took me out of curiosity, because as I was up there on Saturday for a dinner, and I was interviewed by Dr. Ferrer, who was the principal and a mathematician. I don't remember what he said, but Felix Markham, who was the dean, only said one thing, which was, tell me, Mr. Wheeler, assuming you're successful in your application to come to this college, what will you do when you go down? And apparently I answered without hesitation, I shall join the army, sir. And he said, good Lord! And I'm sure they only took me out of curiosity. There were 1 or 2 incidents. One was there was a fire above the physics laboratory which affected Jack Yarko and by then Harry Agard Gunn, and a man called Hickson was the CCF Sergeant Major. And we all knew that Jack had a unique collection of wisdom, and Mike Hawkins and I happened to be close enough to do something about it, and I read in the magazine somewhere in the last 2 or 3 years that we organised the removal of Jack's wisdoms amongst other things, and it was right bang in the middle of the school, really. The other fire was down in the farm before we had a sports hall, and the sports hall was the result of sorting out the mess that the fire created. And again, we were down there, believe it or not, with fire pumps and CCF helmets, and it was just and I mean, we wouldn't have been allowed to do it now. But of course, then subsequently, and it was years after me, the fire brigade under the, was he the headmaster then, or was he whatever?
Yep. Mr. Moore.
Yeah, Mr. Moore. Yeah.